Okay, we are trying different connections to get better audio with General Stubblebine, Major General Stubblebine, and Dr. Rima Laibow from their headquarters, joining us from Health Freedom USA down in Panama. And she's going over organics, victories we've had. First, we had a victory in pushback. 10 years ago, you couldn't find organic food on store shelves. Now, half of it in many cities became organic. It funded local farms, funded organics, but the establishment came in, took over the organic certification groups, many of them, and began certifying, and I'm simplifying this, there's a lot of different techniques they used, certifying things that were GMO, that were genetically modified as organic. But she's saying there's been a victory there. Then we'll get into the latest on flu and a lot more. But before we go there, I want to finish my question to General Stubblebine and to Dr. Laibow. You're a medical doctor and a psychiatrist, Dr. Laibow, and General Stubblebine's commanded hundreds of thousands of troops and generals and many others, and he understands psychology. And I loved your answer to why they write these books. This is a manual, and we've bought over 100 globalist manuals, high-level government manuals for State Department people, UN people. They admit Carol Quigley's book was commissioned by the CFR and other organizations as a briefing manual for high-level CIA and State Department, not meant for public distribution. And they admit these are manuals, but that something else General Stubblebine said I want him to comment on, and then Dr. Laibow, with her psychiatry background, understanding this, why do these people have a compulsion to tell you what they're going to do publicly, but in a small way? They whisper under their breath. It's like the old tales of vampires and the fables, having to trick you to invite them in. Why do they always tell you what they're going to do? Why? First General Stubblebine and then Dr. Laibow.
Well, it seems to me that it's almost, and I have no evidence of this other than watching it over and over and over again, but it's almost like they have a manual that says, in order to do what we're going to do to these people, we got to tell them what we're going to do before we do it. I mean, it's almost a ritual event. And after you've seen it the first time, say, oh, no, second time, oh, no. But eventually you get to a point where you said, holy smokes, these people are crazy. But they're telling us what they're going to do to us before they do it. And if we don't pay attention, then it's our fault that we're getting in trouble. That's when we've got to start the pushback before it becomes totally effective.
I'm sorry, Alex, go ahead.
No, I mean, go ahead, and then we're going to get into Stop the Shot, the organics, what's happening with Codex Alimentarius. I mean, give us the latest. You were there, because you guys are really pushing back. I mean, you are leaders actually taking action. But commenting on that question to General Stubblebine, as a psychiatrist, why are they obsessed with telling you what they're going to do, but then if you say, I don't want that, they say, oh, this book doesn't exist. I mean, it's crazy.
Does anybody remember Son of Sam, who was cutting newspapers apart and magazines and pasted together messages like "Stop me before I kill" after he had killed and before he killed a lot more people? There is a need to be recognized that's very deep in the human psyche, no matter how evil and perverted the human psyche is. And so criminals, police detectives know perfectly well that criminals get caught because they leave clues saying, recognize me, even though they may not consciously want to be caught. And in fact, I believe that this may be the last remnant of humanity in psychopaths so insane that they can, and I'm saying insane as a trained psychiatrist, so insane that they can comfortably and laughingly contemplate with great smugness the genocidal extermination of virtually everybody who doesn't personally serve them or their cohort. This is fabulous craziness. understand there's nothing normal about it. And so I believe that the reason they have this rule, which it appears that they do have, is because it serves their last shred of humanity. This is not a conspiracy theory. We all know at this point that a theory is an untested hypothesis. We have the documentation. This is a conspiracy reality to kill. And I want to point out that what's happening and what's being shared on the internet is the revelation of what we predicted and what you predicted, Alex, which is that the swine flu vaccines are in themselves causing miscarriages and horrific neurological.
Okay, we're going to go over that right now, and I'm going to sit back and give you both the floor to go over your lawsuit, victories we're having, but also the carnage being created by the vaccines that was predicted because of the medical evidence. But I want to go back to the nature of our enemy. I think there's one more reason that in white papers that they publish, they admit their entire plan and then disdainfully tell the general public none of it exists, while Ban Ki-moon admits world government, carbon tax to enslave us, and then other publications owned by George Soros say it doesn't exist, while he goes on Lair NewsHour and calls for world government and carbon tax to fund it. His publications, all 6 of them, attack Alex Jones and say, I'm crazy, none of it exists. I will explain why this is happening, and I want General Stubblebine and then you, Dr. Laibow, to comment on this. Then we'll go over your evidence and then take calls. But they're also doing this to multiple audiences, to the dumbed down, easily suggestible, cowardly people who want to buy a lie, who want to lay down, who want to be slaves. They just don't want to hear about it. It's none of this exists. But then to those of us that they know are not wicked and do have empathy and are tuned into our center and do love people and love creation, it's a threat. Yeah, we're going to kill you, and there's nothing these dumb slaves are going to do. They're never going to wake up. So really, it's a bravado. It's an arrogant, the devil roars to see who he may devour and to intimidate. So it's also blowing their trumpet saying, look, we'll tell the world we're going to kill you. And look at these slaves. They won't even listen to you. I've had elitists tell me that. They go, Alex, you notice you lay all this out and the slaves don't care. They want to be slaves. So it's also a type of not just bragging, as you said, but a type of intimidation. General Stubblebine.
Incidentally, I totally agree with you, Alex. There are a group of us that need to be intimidated. There's a group of us that are sound asleep, that won't even pay any attention. But those who are pushing back need...
We just lost their line. Those of us pushing back need to be intimidated. If we've got them on another backup line, flip them over. I don't think this is a conspiracy. I think it's because they're in Panama.
Yeah, well,
okay, General.
I don't know where it is, but it sure is frustrating.
Well, you know what? With Ventura, they may have been cutting him off. Okay, you were saying there's a group of us who needs to be intimidated. Go ahead.
That needs to be intimidated.
In their view. And
needs to be controlled. And so if we publish all of this and we tell them, they can say, oh, well, you better pay attention, young man. If you don't, you're going to be blah, 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 blah. So I believe that there is a pounding of chest, patting themselves on the back, and letting us know that what is coming down the pike is not going to be good for us. You better shut up, sit down, and just take it.
Well, Alex, what you were saying and what I was saying are the same thing. This kind of arrogant hilarity, the feverish hilarity you might see in these pronouncements and then the denials, is very much both an aggressive demonstration of their power, and at the same time you can see it as this need to be recognized and an intimidation. But then again, our behavior as human beings is usually motivated by many things at the same time. So this makes perfect sense. It's not unitary. It's several things moving us in the same direction. Whatever it is, thank goodness that they feel the need to reveal their plans first, so those of us who are awake and trumpeting can let people know what's going on. And while we have the internet, we have the power to awaken, and people have the power to make change. We have a lawsuit. The Natural Solutions Foundation has a lawsuit that had a hearing on Thursday, November 5th, which was after we spoke from the Codex meeting. And right now, I'm sending out an urgent alert through your show, Alex, for plaintiffs, people who are willing to make a complaint to stop the